And again, good morning. My name is Araya, and I am with the Kent Chamber of Commerce. And today we are going to be hosting a workshop with Tom Fahey with Merid Consulting. And once we get going, as I mentioned, some of you are just coming in, but we are going to be recording this workshop. It will be available via YouTube, our newsletter, and or at your request. If you missed it or missed the email, just shoot us an email and ask for that video, and we can definitely provide it to you. If you have any questions during the presentation, the chat box is open, the Q&A will be open, but this is also going to be an open dialogue for everyone. So Tom will be able to interrupt and feel free to interrupt with any questions that you have during this process. As I mentioned, we will be recording this, and we also will go ahead and do introductions shortly. And so we do ask during those introductions that you have your camera on if possible, and we'll ask you, your first and last name, what company you're from, and what your best client would be, or your perfect client would be one of the questions that we're going to ask. And so we will get going. As I mentioned, Tom is going to be our host today, and I will announce who to introduce first and just who I see first. Well, first we'll let Tom introduce himself, and then next we'll have Cara.
I'm Tom Fahey with Merid Consulting. We're a customer experience improvement consulting firm, and we help our clients understand how customers view the client. And normally that's not always perfect, and I help the client understand how to improve that experience. So that's what we do. And the perfect client, actually the process, the customer experience improvement process is actually so versatile that it can apply to a small company of 5 to 6 people, all the way up to Fortune 500 companies where I've worked with them. Now, typically it's not with the whole company, but it's with groups within that company. So it can be within a customer support team. It can be within a marketing team. So it's quite versatile that way. So.
All right, and for introductions, we'll go ahead and go with Cara and then Charlie.
Hi everyone, my name is Cara Tanner and I am with BECU. I am part of the market expansion team, and so my role is kind of twofold. We are part of the community involvement and supporting our local managers, so our Kent Station location for your guys' area, but also, so one part of my ideal client would be looking for the ideal sponsorship partner, so local community representatives, but also because we help drive business to local centers and our districts, would be finding the ideal new member as well. So someone who's looking for that full banking experience. Our goal as a team is to get more people banked with a credit union especially.
Thank you, Cara.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Charlie Schmidt. I'm an operating and HR specialist for a local salon called Abyssinia Hair and Beauty Salon in downtown Kent. And our stylists there, their aim is to give everyone that wow, standout, beautiful and wonderful beauty and hair experience. So our ideal client would be someone that maybe wants to start off 2021 with a bang, and to get beautiful with their hair, maybe for that professional headshot to get you started for the year, or just because you hadn't had a haircut in 6 or 9 months. So we're running specials. If you check out our website, either on Facebook or the Kent Chamber, you could call or book online. So thanks.
All right, and our next introduction is going to be Bob and then Darla.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bob Green. I'm the exec for the Washington Chamber of Commerce Executives. We're the Professional Development Association for Chamber of Commerce staff throughout the state of Washington. Zenobia is very active with WCCE, and so anyway, I asked to be a freeloader onto this wonderful session, and she more than was gracious to allow me to do that. So thank you for this, and congratulations to the Kent Chamber for all the great work you guys are doing down there. I keep a close eye on all of the things that you're offering your members, and you guys have really done some fabulous work. So appreciate it. So thanks for letting me be a part of this.
Hi everyone, I'm Darla Schild, and I'm the Regional Director for Cisco Food Services. We're as a region, we have Seattle, which is based in Kent, Portland, and Spokane as our region together. And as you probably know, Cisco services all restaurants and healthcare facilities, any place that, that purchases and provides foods for others.
All right, well, thank you, everyone. And as we get going, if you guys do want to put your contact information in the chat, we'll be happy to share the chat with everyone at the end of this meeting. And I'm going to go ahead and give it over to Tom for the presentation. He's coming off mute here. There we go.
Share my screen. Okay. Here. Get this here. So, do you pronounce your name Kara or Kara?
Cara.
Kara. So, Kara, I've actually had a number of conversations with Tom Berquist about customer experience at BECU. Tom Berquist, for all of you who don't know, is the #2 person at BECU. And BECU does an exceptional job of improving customer experience. And they actually are far ahead of most other organizations as it relates to that. So congratulations on that. So we're going to talk about journey mapping as it relates to customer experience. And journey maps are really one part of improving customer experience, but it's probably the most important part because it is a visualization of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And so what we're going to do today is talk about, first of all, the definition of customer experience. And I'm going to use CX in replacement of customer experience occasionally, just because it's easier to say. So I'll say both of them throughout this presentation. And then we're going to talk about your experience. So I don't want this to be just me talking the whole time. I'll talk a lot, but I'm not going to be talking the whole time. So we're going to talk about some experiences that you've had as a consumer, good or bad, or with your company. So you can think about some things that you can share there. And we're going to talk about the importance of improving experiences. There's a lot of data out there that suggests that when you improve customer experience, it helps every aspect of your business. And then we'll get into then the more details of journey mapping. So we'll start out with the definition of customer experience, a customer's perception of their interaction with you. And you can see that I've emphasized their interaction, and that will kind of be a theme throughout this whole workshop. This is really about what customers think. And so customer experience is really trying to get companies to understand how to think what's called from outside in as opposed to inside out. I think a lot of companies, they go about their processes and they try to improve their processes, but they're not necessarily thinking about how customers are viewing their interaction with the company. And so thinking from a customer's perspective is actually quite important in this process. Now, customer experience improvement is actually the activities that you undertake to improve the experience. And this is the hard part for a lot of companies. A lot of companies will do research, but it's hard for them to actually convert that into something actionable that improves customer experience. There's a lot of elements that have to be in play for that to occur. And frankly, it's a little bit of a departure from normal processes. And so this is the part where a lot of companies just kind of get caught up in not being able to improve the experience. Okay, so right now I'm going to stop sharing. And I want you guys to tell me some examples of your experiences as a customer, good or bad, or within your business. So anyone can start.
I'll start. One of my experiences that I've had in my past roles, I've traveled a lot. And so I'm a big fan of Alaska Airlines. I feel like I always get great customer service. And I just found out yesterday, they sent me an email and they said that because of COVID, they're keeping my MVP status for the entire year, which made me thrilled because, you know, travel has obviously been down. And so I just feel like they go above and beyond. They do things for me before I have to ask for it. I've never had a time where I've called them and had a complaint where they didn't solve the problem, and not only go above and beyond, but give me something, that's valuable to me as well.
Very good. Thank you, Darla. Who else? Don't be shy. As a consumer, you've had tons of experiences, I have to imagine, right? Okay, I'll go next, but I'm gonna make sure you go. So my experience is with my wireless provider, AT&T. So about 4 years ago, I had a new phone, and I had to go to the store in Covington to get it. And I've already experienced how awful that is. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible experience. It's almost as long to buy a phone as it is to go in a dealership and buy a car. And so I went in, and the people there are super nice, right? They have their tablet there, and they say, "Welcome, what can we do for you?" And I say, "I'm here to buy a new phone." And then they put my name down, they put down there why I'm there, and they say, "Great, so if you can come back in an hour and 15 minutes, we have an appointment set for you. If you want to go to Starbucks and get some coffee, you can do that." So I did. And I came back, and they said, "Oh, great, you're here." And then it took about 2 hours just to get my new phone. And that experience was painful. And I didn't want to go through that again. So 2 years ago, when it was time to get a new phone, I thought, "Oh, I don't want to do this." So I went on my phone, onto the app, and I saw something that said, "Hey, you're available for an upgrade." So I clicked it, and it said, "We can have your phone to you at your house in 2 hours." And I thought, that's different. And so I kept clicking to see what this was all about, if it was a trick of some sort. And I kept clicking. As it turns out, it said, "We have a third party that we partner with, and they have vans that are just driving around, phones in the vans, ready to come to your house to drop off your phone." So they said they'll be there within 2 hours. An hour and 5 minutes later, they come to the door, and two people came in, and they switched my old phone to my new phone, sold me a phone case, of course, and they were out in 10 minutes. That was the best experience, and a complete 180 from what I experienced before. So what that tells you is that AT&T is doing research. They are surveying their customers to ask them their experiences. And customers said, it is the worst possible experience to come into your store to buy a phone. And so they came up with a different way to do it. And I thought that was fantastic. So rather than just have a bad experience, one company converted bad into good. So, okay, anybody else before I start calling on you? I'm kidding, I won't do that.
It's interesting, as you were talking about the story with AT&T, I was thinking a little bit about that with the QFC. I'm the grocery shopper in the family. And over the last year, of course, it's become more of a challenge than anything else. So we decided this weekend that we'd use their delivery service again. We did it early on in the pandemic and hadn't used it for a while. And actually the process was so improved over from when it first started just 9 months ago or 10 months ago. I was extremely impressed with the website, how much easier it was to use it, how you were able to use sales and coupons and all kinds of different stuff. And so I had to hand it to them, and the delivery was on time, and the salesperson that was picking up our groceries stayed in contact with us through the phone, saying when there was problems with what I'd ordered. The whole thing was extremely, and sort of like, okay, maybe I'll start using it again. It just makes life a little bit easier. So I have to hand it to QFC. They did a nice job with it as far as the improvement aspect of what it was to what it is now.
Yeah, very good, very good. Anybody else?
Well, I'll dovetail on your comment about phones and service. So over the years, I was not really impressed by the brand name phones. like the company with the S or with a V, and especially when it came to repairs, you'd go to their flagship store and you'd stand in line and wait for half an hour, hour and a half. But if you wanted to buy a phone and spend six figures, then of course you had instant service in front of you. But when you wanted to get your phone repaired, you know, you were a pariah. So
Right.
luckily the free market solved that. And I started to Bing search and try to find out if there were local retailers that did smartphone repair. And I found one with 5-star reviews in downtown Renton, and it was an Asian guy, and I guess he had one time worked for Apple. So he has electronics, laptop, smartphone repair business, and his claim to fame, he'll do most repairs for $25 flat fee, and he guarantees to have it done in 30 minutes.
Wow.
I've taken him 6 phones and 2 tablets in the last 6 months, and he's never failed to keep his promise.
Wow.
So I'm glad that the free market comes up with solutions when the name brand companies just ignore you.
Yes, indeed. Well, he obviously found a niche that wasn't being filled. Good. Very good. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate that. Okay. I'm going to share the screen again, and we're going to keep blasting through this. Okay. So the importance of improving CX. 80% of companies believe they deliver a superior customer experience. According to Bain and Company, only 8% of customers agree with that. Now, if you looked at the wording of the one on the left, the companies that believe they deliver. So these are clearly companies that have never tried to quantify the customer experience before. They have this view of kind of viewing the world from inside out as opposed to outside in. And so there's a difference, though, when you talk about companies that do improve customer experience. So data from Dimension Data says that companies that work to improve the customer experience increase customer retention. 92% of companies that improve customer experience see an increase in customer retention. 84% of companies that work to improve see an increase in revenue. And companies that are experience-led or that think about customer experience and employee experience have an increase in employee satisfaction by 50%. And what that does is that decreases costs. When you have employees that are engaged, they're less likely to leave. And obviously, you all probably know that when your employees turn over, it costs a lot of money. Okay, so before journey mapping, there are some things that you really should consider. And what we want to do is kind of frame the journey map into stages that the customer interacts with you, these customer experience stages, CX stages. And you can see that the words are based on the customer's perception. So the customer is learning, and then the customer is buying, and then they are using, and then they will need support. So they're going through this journey with you through these different stages, and different companies use different stages. Some use 5 stages, and some have 6, but this is the basic gist. And then within each of those stages are specific points at which the customer touches you. And these are really where you want to focus on collecting feedback at these different touch points. And so you want to understand what customers are expecting, how they feel about their interaction. And they may not necessarily be super happy or super upset with you at certain things, but they may not necessarily like it or dislike it. For example, if you go onto your bank app and you expect to complete a task in 3 clicks, and it takes you 6. Well, you're not going to be super upset about that, but you're not going to necessarily like it. So it depends on how important, though, that interaction is for you. If that is an important interaction, then the bank needs to understand that. So some different ways to understand customer sentiment. Probably the very best way is surveys. And typically, the best way to do these are right after a customer interacts with you. Some of you who may have been on the call last week, the Kent Chamber monthly luncheon call, you noticed that by the next day, there was an email asking you to fill out a 2-question survey on how you felt about that luncheon. And so some examples of this, Warby Parker. So Warby Parker is the eyeglass retailer, and this is actually my experience with them. So I bought a pair of Warby Parker glasses last month. As a matter of fact, the ones you see right there are the ones that I bought. And as it turns out, so I got them, and as it turns out, my face is bigger than I realized, and the glasses were too small. So I had to call them. It said to call if you want to exchange. I called them, and I talked to a young man named Alex, and he helped me within 2 minutes. He had my correct size. He put the order in. He sent a shipping label for me to ship back the old ones. And within an hour and a half, I got an email that said this: you recently had a call with Alex. And then it gives some information about Alex, a little fun fact. He was in a role, and he's going to be in a role in an upcoming film. And then it asks you to rate, to pick one of these 5 stars. So I picked the 5th star. I picked 5 stars. You click that, and it takes you to a website. And it asks for more information. Tell us why you picked 5 stars. And then down below, what did Alex do particularly well? Now, I happened to click all 6 of these because he did great with every one of them. Now, if Alex were to have only been great at 3 of these things, the Warby Parker system would see that, and all of their customer service reps probably have all of this quantifiable data that shows how well or how poorly they do. And normally, when it comes to customer experience improvement as it relates to specific individuals who need to, quote, improve, companies are really good about not making it about a rep did something poorly. They actually have processes in place that say, well, okay, so this group of customers didn't think you were fast enough, or perhaps you take longer on the phone than other reps. So these are some tools that you can use to improve on that. And so keeping it positive and helping to lift up the employees is really what a lot of companies do that are experience led, that understand that employee engagement is a humongous part of improving customer experience. And there's also social listening. Many of you have seen things like Google reviews or Yelp reviews. You may have even seen some of your own and even responded to some of your own. I actually had a client that told me that, yeah, they respond to a lot of the great comments and a lot of the poor comments, but they don't do anything after that. So they're just reacting. And so, but then you have the example of Jersey Mike's. So last week they sent out this picture of this person holding their sub at the beach, and they got this response from someone named Scuba that basically said the bread was so stale, I could have water skied with the bun. Now this guy took the time to even show a picture of a guy water skiing. And his complaint was he bought it on Uber Eats. He believes that the staff takes the stale bread and they unload that on the delivery services. Jersey Mike's responded. Now, it did take him 2 days to respond. If you look, January 5th was when this guy sent it, and they responded on January 7th. But they did respond. And not only did they say, thank you for bringing this to our attention, but they wanted this person to give feedback. So if you click that link on the bottom, it goes to this contact card, put your information in, and then it gives you an opportunity then to share exactly what you're thinking. And this again allows a company like Jersey Mike's to quantify the happiness or unhappiness of their customers, and then they can take action on that. So rather than just responding, they did something else, which was actually a lot better. You also can do customer interviews or focus groups. I don't necessarily recommend this for companies to have employees do this. Customers who know you won't necessarily give you a straight answer. If in fact you are the one asking the questions, I'd recommend that a third party in particular does that. So now we get to the journey map. So you want to start with a persona. And a persona is really a representation of one of your target audiences. So in this particular case, we have a person named Sony. Now, let's say that you sell business management software and you try to optimize different departments in companies, HR, operations, finance, marketing. And let's say that Sonia is a director of operations. And she has certain expectations, like she needs to reach her operational excellence goals, which means she needs to show how she's improving revenue or improving productivity or workforce capabilities, et cetera. And then you can also list her motivators, which you have researched and know that that she wants a vendor that's easy to work with, and she wants a product that's easy to learn and use. So you put that on there, and you put this face to a customer, so that you understand that there are real people that are buying your product. Okay, so we go back to the customer experience stages and then the touch points, and then what we do is really start to understand and visually how happy or unhappy they are, your customers are, at different points in their journey. I just randomly put these in here, right? And so the thing that I particularly pay attention to are these pieces, in this case, that have the bold outline. That is to indicate that these are touch points that matter to customers. We call these moments of truth. And so in the case of the salespeople, obviously the customers really, really enjoy their interaction with the salespeople. They might be extremely knowledgeable, very helpful, etc., and they appreciate that. The function of the product is just kind of So Sonia might think, well, yeah, it's helping. I'm understanding how productivity is being improved. Not quite seeing workforce capability improvement with this product, but it sure is easy to use. And then if Sonia has any questions about the product, she usually will go online first to try to find an answer. And that is a pretty painful part for her, because she's trying to find an answer that she can't get. And now she has to call support. Now, the interaction with the phone support is fantastic. But for the company that's selling the business management software, it's pretty expensive to have people go online to try to find customers go online to try to find an answer, and then have to go talk to people on the phone. It is much, much less expensive to give information on your website rather than have people on the phone. So that's one thing. Obviously, that's a cost piece that the company, that business management software company would have to look at. And obviously, you want your product to be as functional as possible. And so asking more questions of customers as to what they mean by it's kind of functional is going to be super important for this particular company. And then what you want to do is put in words or phrases or sentences that kind of capture the overall view of customers for that particular touch point. And it's even better if you have specific quotes from customers. Those are really powerful, especially if they're bad. Like, this buying process is difficult and unintuitive. Obviously, the people who are in charge of process and technology would probably be best served to put that on the top of their priority list of how to improve. And then list out some opportunities for improvement at this point. Now, you'll have a lot of information underneath each of these touch points to kind of build out each one of them to understand how to improve them. And frankly, there will be different people who will be responsible for improving those. So all of the work of improving the touch points will be which ones are the priority to customers, and are they a poor experience? So function of the product, pretty important, even, it's kind of to the customers. And then the online support. Online support piece is probably the easiest one to fix, but the function of the product has got to be absolutely better than that. Are there any questions right now? Let me stop right here. Any questions that you have based on this journey map?
I also don't see any questions in the chat.
Okay. All right. So the object is to move all of these faces to happy, smiley faces at the top. So what do you do after journey mapping? Now, this is the part where I was talking about that, gosh, it's really hard to do. It's hard to make that transition from gathering information, analyzing it, putting it into a journey map, but then actually making the actual changes to improve the experience. There's a lot of elements at play within a company, regardless of size. There's going to be some changes that need to be made. Change is not something that is particularly a happy thing for a lot of employees who are used to a certain amount of process that they're used to. It kind of upends them a little bit. So, and there's also some project management that has to happen. Someone or different people are going to have to be responsible for improving the different parts of the customer experience. That's not a function that a lot of companies have right now. And so people have to take on that role that they're not used to taking on. And so this is the part that is a little more challenging. So the next step after you create your journey map is to identify the opportunities for improvement. I'll give you an example of this. This is a great example. So last quarter, so Q4 of last year, I worked with Zenobia and Araya on a Kent Chamber member experience improvement project. We're still working on it. And we did a big survey. Some of you may have filled that out. We did a big survey and we asked questions based on specific points at which members touch the chamber. So networking events, emails, the website. And there was a lot of data that came back, and there were areas that could be improved from a network perspective, relating to more virtual networking events. Most of the feedback was positive. Some of it wasn't, but I was extremely impressed with how Zenobia and Araya were able to take that information and say, what can we do to improve this? They didn't get defensive. They saw opportunities to improve. They didn't see it as people that were coming down on them. They actually were jumping at the chance. They immediately started coming up with ways to improve the experience as I was going through the analysis of the data with them. And that was just fantastic to see. And so some of the things that they have come up with actually are starting to kind of play out now. You may have seen their changes to the structures of the emails, or for example, in the monthly luncheon last week at the beginning, there was a networking piece where you were able to share about what you do, what your company is, and who your typical customer is, just like what we did at the start of this meeting. I had a committee meeting this morning with the ambassador committee. We did the same thing. And so, and also with the website, they're going through the process right now of improving that based specifically on what members were saying they wanted changed about the website. And so it's been a joy to go through this with Zenobia and Araya, because they are doing exactly what you hope a company or an organization does to try to improve the experience. They're not trying to make excuses. They're not trying to place any blame anywhere else or push the blame back on members. No, they really have looked at specifically how to improve. As a matter of fact, this is really kind of cool. So I don't know if you guys saw the email that they sent out. Araya sent it, I think, on Friday, about Legislative Day, which is going to be January 26th. Now, one of the things that came back from the data was that members wanted information on government activities, and Legislative Day it allows all of us, if we want to have direct conversations with state legislators. So you can request like a small virtual group meeting, you select the topic, and that's January 26th. I did notice that, though, today is the last day to register. So if you want to register for that, you got to do it by today. So anyway, and then after, finally at the end, you measure changes. So what we're going to do here in a couple months is we're going to send out that same survey that we sent out in Q4 of last year. And we're going to see what the changes are to the sentiment, how members feel. I can tell you that after the survey last quarter relating to monthly luncheons, I compared that data to the data that came back on Friday for the survey that went out, and the experience, the value that members said the chamber brought to bear with the monthly luncheon was actually improved this month than what they experienced before, which is pretty phenomenal considering that we're not face to face, we're not interacting face to face. It was all virtual. So anyway, that's an example of what you can do after you create your journey map to improve the experience and to embrace the change, which I think is pretty important too. So.
And Tom, we did have a question in regards to how can we access the journey map graphics?
I can send you, I can send a PowerPoint to Araya, who can send it out to the group.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So this is actually the end of the presentation. So let me know if you have any questions at this point. All makes perfect sense.
I was going to say that question came from the chat. I didn't see an additional question yet, but everyone feel free to ask your question in the chat or directly to me or Tom.
So I think in our environment of a salon, I know when I've observed the stylists and when I see them being onboarded and trained, I guess a lot of, instead of doing a formal like mapping for customer service, they're verbally trying to get feedback. And obviously when they, the goal of every hair or beauty event is to make someone feel and look great. So the experienced ones know how to kind of steer that conversation when they're wrapping up to find out if they've done well, and then if they've done well, then they try to see if there's a chance that they will do a testimonial or do a survey on the common places like Google or Yelp. And so I know our management team looks, because we don't have a mapping thing per se to measure customer satisfaction, we do kind of map those brand name places and really scrutinize the how many stars people give us, or
Yeah.
so. But I think to be more thorough, we probably should put some weight in to have a more formal performance management and customer satisfaction type of thing.
Well, Charlie, that certainly gives you the data that you would want that's quantifiable. It's great to have anecdotal information, like a couple people here and there said, hey, it was a great experience. But to quantify it, that allows you to not only specifically make changes, but it also allows you to understand if you're improving too, because you can then quantify it later. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how good was your experience? Well, it was a 7. Next time they come in after you've made the changes and they say 9, then you say, hey, look at that. We've actually improved. So
Thanks.
yeah. So Cara had a question. Any tips for getting team members to buy in to make changes? This is a fantastic question. And yes, as a matter of fact, Cara, I do have some tips on that. So one thing that I always really enjoy doing is when there's some type of pushback, and oftentimes there is to help employees understand what the goals. And when you can articulate that, and when you can share how they are part of making that the goal, and when you show them that they are part of the process, that's going to make it easier, and I'll explain that. So when you're gathering all this information about the customer experience, when that information is shared with the company, employees, different departments, it is really important to allow those employees to help come up with the activities to improve the experience. And what happens is, not only do they feel a part of the solution, but then you also have them play a role in being responsible for completing those activities to improve the experience, rather than just coming up with them. And when they do that, and when you then understand customer sentiment after those changes have been made and the customer experience has been improved, you now have employees who are actively engaged because they finally see the value that they are providing to the company. And so that whole problem with change starts to really go away at that point. So thank you for the question. Anybody else? No? Well, if you have any questions that you want to ask privately, you can send me an email. I'm in the system. You can check me on the Kent Chamber website. And then I will send the deck to Araya, who can send it out to people. Okay. Araya, do you have anything else? You're on mute.
It popped up too, thank you. I will definitely send out an email with the slide information that was discussed to everybody, and I will go ahead and CC Tom so that you have his email and contact information as well. And if you guys have any questions, reach out to Tom or myself, and we'll be happy to assist you guys. This will also be available on our YouTube channel, so please view that within the next day or so and subscribe. And that's all we have. I'll give you guys back the last little 15 minutes of this meeting time. Thank you for joining.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.